Great. So welcome to home buying in Costa Rica. This is, to be honest, this is not my home. I pulled this off of the internet. I searched for luxury homes in Costa Rica and found this and thought it was a beauty. So I figured I'd use it. Full disclosure, whoever house it is, it's gorgeous. All right. So my name is Samantha Nash. As most of you know, I'm a certified international property specialist. I work for international realty firm. Just to give you a little bit of a background as to how I got here and what this international real estate thing is all about, I will let you know that I've been a realtor here in Toronto for 20 years, so since 2005. And in about 2018, I decided that I wanted to help Canadians buy abroad. So as some of you might know, I was born in Barbados. I've lived in the Dominican Republic. And so for those reasons, I wanted to start this business outside of Canada because, people were inquiring about properties in other countries, et cetera, et cetera. I also work with Jamaica because there's just such a huge Jamaican population here in Toronto. Many of my friends and clients are from Jamaica, so that was natural. And then Costa Rica is just so popular with Canadians that Canadians really, really love Costa Rica. I think it's a gorgeous place. I love all the, the natural, different ecosystems that it has to offer, and the price points are really good. So naturally, we couldn't leave Costa Rica out. So a little bit about my journey. Even though I work for international realty firm, it wasn't that because I work for them, I'm all of a sudden an international realtor. I got a designation, the CIPS, Certified International Property Specialist designation that I mentioned. I got that through NAR, which is the National Association for Realtors. And what that is they offer a course. And once you complete that course, you can call yourself an international realtor. So in addition to successfully finishing the requirements for the course, there's also a point system. And so the point system is you have to prove to them that you've had international experience. So you get allotted points for things like, living abroad, speaking a second language, studying abroad, working abroad, all of those things. So that's how I naturally kind of had those points that were required in order to get my designation. So once I got the designation, I started to build my network in different countries. So in all of the countries that I mentioned prior, I have a network of people from realtors to developers to lenders, lawyers, the whole gamut. And I've spent the last couple of years really fine-tuning and solidifying my team in other countries. So basically in this process, if you're interested in buying in any one of those marketplaces, you would come to me. I will sort of like assess your situation and see like where in that process you are. And then we get you ready like with your financing if necessary and whatnot. And then I put you in touch with my partners overseas when the time is right, of course. So enough about me. We're here to talk about Costa Rica. I just wanted to kind of give you a background itinerary today. So I am joined today by Laura Smallwood. She works for Remax Lake and Volcano. And I've actually been working with a company for maybe 4 years, I think. And her broker owner, Nathan and I have done, we've done a couple webinars in the past, but because Laura is from Canada, we wanted to have her on today and have her as a fellow Canadian share her experiences from her eyes. So together, Laura and I are going to discuss, she's going to tell us why she believes in Costa Rica and why she feels like people move there as she has. We'll talk about the real estate market, the buying process, the locations of where people are buying, any financing options, and of course, the tourist attractions. So without further ado, we'll have Laura introduce herself and we'll get started with our webinar.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. And obviously, I love, Costa Rica, and I love sharing my experiences. So I am more than happy to, help other Canadians or U.S. citizens, whoever, out and help them with the move if they want to make it. So I'm just going to share my screen, Samantha, so you can see my presentation.
Perfect. I'm going to ask if everybody can also turn off their cameras just because we are recording and we will be sharing this recording with other people. Bianca. Thanks for joining. Okay, you know what? Just even before we get into that, what Laura and I have discussed is that as we're going through the presentation, we don't want you to feel like you have to save all your questions for the end. We'd like to have like a really sort of interactive presentation. So just, Laura will pause and ask if there's any questions. You guys can just unmute as we go through and go ahead and ask your questions. So take the reins, my dear.
Perfect. So my name's Laura Smallwood. I'm obviously a Costa Rica real estate expert. I kind of want to preface this presentation and let you guys know that all of the photos that are in my presentation are taken by me personally. I always like to let people know this because I want you to know this isn't some kind of like Instagram special, you know, got off the internet, some pretty picture. These are actual photos of Costa Rica that I've taken through my experiences through the country. And I am definitely no professional photographer. The country really is just this beautiful. So just wanted to kind of let you guys know that. So a little bit about me. So I've been working with real estate management, like property management and selling real estate for a while now. I have a good experience in it. I'm obviously Canadian. I love helping international buyers. I've helped, you know, through sharing my own experiences of getting residency and things like that, right up to obviously buying homes and selling property here and the whole gamut between there. I'm truly passionate about Costa Rica. You'll probably hear it as I'm speaking. It's more of a just, this is my love of this country. You know, I still have my love for Canada, but since moving here, I've just discovered the great life that awaited me here. And I wish that I'd done it sooner, as a matter of fact, but hey, that's the way life goes. I've been here for about 4 years now and loving every second of it. So can't wait to share all of that with you guys.
Perfect.
You might ask yourselves kind of why work with me or why work honestly with any agent in Costa Rica and not just find a property on your own. So a couple of really big reasons. The first one is going to be that there's no MLS system in Costa Rica. So finding properties can be quite tiresome and a little bit difficult just because you have to search a lot of sites. You have to know what sites to search. You have to know where to go. But the beauty is to working with like RE/MAX in Costa Rica, we actually list about 40% of the properties all across the country. So you've already got a really great, almost like an MLS system just within the RE/MAX community, which is really helpful. Obviously, I offer different options for when you need that help and you're looking for the property, virtual tours or personalized tours, things like that until you can make it down here and maybe see a property for yourself. Those are great tools to have. As far as you've ever heard that, you know, saying of it's all who you know, it's very true. I do know a lot of people in and around the area. I've lived on many different parts of the country. I've traveled all over the country. I have a really big network of people, you know, financial, legal, home inspectors, like all of it. If you name it, I know it. I have someone to help with that. So it's really a great resource to help with your guys' purchase. I speak English and Spanish, still working on my Spanish, but a very good communicational skills. And I've done the relocation myself. So I like to just point that out that, you know, I'm here for any questions you may have. If it's about, you know, your residency, the lifestyle here, community, you know, vacation here, if it comes down to holidays they have in Costa Rica, anything like that. I have a wide breadth of knowledge. So that's pretty much the rundown of me. Anyone have any questions for me?
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I actually have a story, a really quick story, when you mentioned the importance of why, you know, work with a realtor and people that you trust. So one day I got a call from somebody here in Toronto, and he's actually a radio celebrity. And he calls me up. He says, Samantha, I've been seeing what you've been doing on Instagram, and you know what? I want to buy this property in Costa Rica, but I have the property, so I don't need you. And I don't want a realtor. I'm not paying any fees. I have the property. All I want is your realtor's home inspector and the lawyer is what he asked for. And I says, well, I'll tell you what, how about I put you in touch with him? I'll let him know that you're going to give him a call and he can share that information with you, you know, if he wishes. So anyways, they had a quick talk. It ends up that he actually ends up hiring your broker owner, Nathan, for this property. And good thing he did. Now, Nathan I think he sort of charged him like a little consultant fee. It wasn't much, just to guide him through the process. Went with him to the home inspection, make sure that everything was properly handled, and of course, referred him to the lawyer. Well, interesting enough, on the closing day, Nathan had to call the lawyer and slam the brakes on everything because the house was tenanted and the people had not left the houses yet. So I'm going to say, if he was not working with Nathan and Nathan didn't step in and handle that and demand that these people get out, they actually got out within a week, which is amazing because that would never happen in Toronto. But they vacated the property and he was able to move into his home within a week after. So if he wasn't working with Nathan, I'm not sure what would have happened. So needless to say, as much as he didn't think he needed our guidance, he did. And he was very, very happy that he moved forward with them.
Yeah, it's so true. Whether you're in, honestly, Canada or the US or a foreign country, it doesn't matter. Realtors are there to help you and to, ease the problems that could potentially happen.
100%. Great. So I would like to hear also from you, like, why should people pick? I mean, I've already heard you say it, but why are people picking Costa Rica, and whereabouts are they buying?
Absolutely. So if you know much about Costa Rica, it's obviously in Central America. It is the tropics, beautiful area. But the benefits of Costa Rica over a lot of other Central American countries are that we have such a stable democracy, and the economy and everything is just really solid here. So you don't have to have that fear constantly of upheaval in the government, things like that. They did abolish their army here in 1948. They took all of that money that was going towards the army and they put it all into their healthcare and education system. They really feel that, children are the essence of, everything of life here. And so it revolves around them. So the healthcare system is top notch, of the highest quality that you're going to get. And even as you get into your, if you're interested in residency in the country, the healthcare system is pretty much free. It's a small monthly fee you pay into, and you get free healthcare for whatever you need as a resident. It's a really wonderful system. Second to that is just the healthy living. You don't even need as much healthcare because everyone's just a little bit healthier. You'll know that there are only 5 blue zones in the whole world, and Costa Rica actually has the largest of all over the world of the 5 blue zones. So it's known for its longevity, for living long, really healthy lives. They obviously eat fresh food regularly, really, everything grows here year round. So you're never in those seasons of difficulty where you can't get fresh food. So that's always lovely. And then just the Pura Vida lifestyle, which I'm sure you've probably heard that term before. And it kind of gets thrown around as a little bit of a joke of everyone's like, oh, they just relax. But Pura Vida literally means pure life. And it's about having that active lifestyle, healthy community, stress-free, really a work-life balance, lots of family time, things like that. So it's just all about that genuine lifestyle. And I think that's why they live so long here. We definitely lack that. I think a bit in Canada, kind of getting stuck in the rat race. Additionally, we've got the investment opportunity here in Costa Rica, which is huge. It's just growing exponentially almost year over year. Since, our bit of a recession in 2008, our tourism here in Costa Rica has just grown hand over foot. We have a great tourism sector where you can just, invest in a property and, those tourism areas just grow and grow and grow, and your investment just multiplies. So it's really a great place to put some of your money. There's also tons of expats around, which is great. So you can learn a new language here, but also you do have a lot of that sharing of your own culture from home too, which is really nice. And there's really favorable laws for buying as a foreigner here. So you can own just the same as any local can own property. There's no extra taxes or anything like that. You know, even without residency or anything, you're free and clear to own property in Costa Rica.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then just last point is obviously the beauty and nature of Costa Rica. So I can't express enough. This picture that's on this page, you'll see these are scarlet macaws. They are in the community I own a house in. I was literally walking by and I took this photo. They are at about my head height. That's how close they were to me. I have another picture of me literally standing right beside them. Stuff like that. You know, there's huge amount of species in the country. 5% of the world's biodiversity is located right here in Costa Rica. And for such a small country, you've got to think of how much that really means. We've got every landscape you can imagine. There's beaches, there's rainforests, there's volcanoes, there's, you know, national parks, everything that you kind of want to tick off your box to see. It's all located right in this small country. It's just really about, you know, eco-friendly and just, you know, keeping the rainforests alive. Costa Rica has over 66% coverage in rainforest.
Amazing. Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone have any questions about that? I know you can probably hear how just I love this country. So it comes
Okay, so shall we talk about the home buying process?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just go a little bit over kind of the market overview. I kind of touched on it a little bit. There's consistent appreciation in property values in Costa Rica, pretty much steady since 2008. Obviously, high demand for beachfront. That's a huge tourism sector. And lots of retirees, expats, and digital nomads keep flocking to Costa Rica, especially for its healthcare system and education, things like that. Even younger families are moving here and putting their kids into the education system here. So really, really high market value. You've kind of got three sort of types of areas that we buy or look at properties. You've got beachfront. On the Pacific or the Caribbean side of the country. You've got the mountain and jungle areas, which are in the Central Valley. And then you've got your city or developmental land. So where you can purchase property and build what you'd like on it or stay in the city limits, and as well with commercial development, anything like that. Any questions?
Not so far.
Perfect. So let me walk you through the process, how it kind of works here. So the first step that you want to do is try to define what your budget is and what your property goals are. So that includes your location. Obviously, are you looking for more near the beach? Are you looking for a nice climate? You know, and some of the specifications, pool, size of the home, things like that. Really narrowing those things down can help you because there is a lot of properties available in Costa Rica, just because it's a thriving market. There's constantly stuff being built and turnover, you know, for prospects. So you really want to know where you're looking so that you can really narrow that down. Obviously, working with a trusted agent, as we talked about. I should mention that in Costa Rica, there's no licensing for real estate people to sell real estate. I guess that's the way I want to verbalize that.
They don't have a license.
Yeah, you don't have to have a license. So sorry about that. So that can create a little bit of the wild west here in Costa Rica. So we joke about it a bit, but you should know that you need to find someone that you can really trust. So they do have one organization that's called the Costa Rican Chamber of Real Estate Brokers. Now, this is not a legal entity where you have to have it to be licensed and work in real estate here. But it promotes ethical practices, and it's just really important that you be a part of that. RE/MAX requires all of their agents and brokers to be a part of that organization. So you know that when you're working with someone from RE/MAX, or hopefully most of the other brokers, you're working with a trusted agent. So that's really important. And then they're going to help you to find, you know, your dream property, which is step 3. finding that dream property and making your offer. So offers are really simple here in Costa Rica. You don't even have to be present for it. You know, you can do it digitally, make the offer. You know, once it's signed, then you start looking at getting legal due diligence done and hiring an attorney. So once it's approved by everyone, the seller and the buyer, everyone signs off, you're going to go into step 4 and do and get your attorney involved. I have lots of attorneys that I work with for sales, depending on what you're looking for, English speaking as well. And they're going to help you go through the process, making sure that the title is free and clear. There's no liens on the property, you know, sort of the same process that you see in Canada, similar things to just to make sure that you're safe in your buying process. And then you've obviously got the closing and the transfer of ownership. That is one thing that you do have to be present for in Costa Rica. So there's really just 2 options. You can, 1, be here for the closing date and sign off on the property, or you have to make the choice to come down before the closing date and sign a power of attorney with your lawyer, because you cannot sign real estate legally in Costa Rica digitally.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a fun fact. So that's really
I've gone down there and done it there, so that's why I haven't had anybody do it virtually so far.
Yeah, so you can do almost everything virtually. You can do the tour, you can purchase the property, put in the offer, and you only have to be here for that closing date that you can set in the offer. So it's flexible, but you do have to be here at one point or another, and hopefully you do want to be in the country, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Right.
This whole timeline, you're looking at about 4 to 8 weeks, right from, you know, pretty much when you find your property and make an offer, you're looking about 4 to 8 weeks to close everything. That's part of the due diligence issues and things. Some of the documents that you need take about 30 days to get from the municipalities. So that's why we talk about that time frame. That's about the shortest it can happen in. Of course, you can extend dates if you need to, and if everyone's in agreement, as regular.
Okay.
Some important notes that I kind of touched on. You don't need to be a resident to buy property here in Costa Rica. So everyone is free to buy property. It's secure for locals, foreigners. It doesn't matter. And also noting that the property taxes are very low here in Costa Rica. So they're 0.25% of the declared value of the home. So that's not what you pay for the home, it's the declared value. Those 2 values can be different. More often, the declared value is actually lower, just because everyone kind of keeps them low within the government to make sure that the taxes are not getting too high. But even at 0.25%, you're looking at, if you have a $400,000 property, you're looking at $1,000 a year in property taxes.
So is your declared value similar to what we would have here as our assessed value? Is it determined by the government? Okay.
Yeah.
Which also dictates your property taxes.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily what you bought the home for.
And so what other fees are associated aside from your property taxes, actually the purchase of the house? I mean, you're going to have to pay your home inspector and whatnot, but are there any other fees that we don't know about yet?
Yeah, so generally when it comes to the fees at the end of the process, commissions to your real estate agent are always paid by the seller. That's a standard process here in Costa Rica, as is in Canada as well. The fees that the buyer is responsible for include any legal fees, land transfer fees, and you're probably looking at an escrow because transferring money between Canada and Costa Rica, you just want to keep yourself safe. So using an escrow account is not that expensive and is really the way to go to ensure that there's no problems and your money isn't released to the owners or anything like that until till the final closing date and you have the deed in your hand and the keys. So there's those fees to consider. Your legal fees and land transfer taxes are approximately 2.5% of the purchase price. So you have to accommodate for that in your budget.
Okay. Well, you've answered all my questions that I had to ask you. I would like to, so very good job. I just want to echo regarding point number 2, where you say working with a trusted agent, not to like kind of beat the dead horse, but I just want to say that I used to work with Remax when I first got my license. So I'm really aware of their processes and how adamant in particular they are about making sure that everybody is upholding certain ethics and whatnot when you're working under the Remax brand. Secondly to that, the way I was referred to your brokerage originally through Nathan is through the headquarters of Remax Caribbean and Central America. So when I first got my international thing and I was trying to figure out, you know, where to start, they appointed me and highly recommended your brokerage. I just want to say.
Thank you. Perfect. That's so nice to hear.
Before you're with them, but doesn't matter. It's now. There you go. Great job, though.
Okay, so are there any other questions before we move on?
I'd like to know about financing, but I have a feeling you might have that in the next slide or somewhere down the line.
I do. So
Okay,
first,
moving to it. Sorry.
yeah, I'd love to just talk about some locations first in the country, just to kind of go over so that you can get a good overview, and then we'll go into some finances, you know, the boring stuff. So really there's 6 central locations where, I want to say these are not, obviously you're not restricted to these, but they're where a lot of expats fly, and there's a lot of tourism and really great places to think about when you're in your property search and when you're thinking about defining what your ideal property is going to look like in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
So the first is the North Pacific. You can see it on this map here in the number 1 zone. So it's along the coast in Guanacaste. Very warm climate, obviously stunning beaches, growing market of real estate in this area, includes like Tamarindo and Playa Hermosa, some places like that. Really beautiful, and close to some airports like the Liberia airport, which is an international and does direct flights from Canada. So that's important to note when you're looking at places you want to live. The second one is Lake Arenal. So this is an area that I work in a lot for real estate. Lake Arenal, fun fact, is actually a man-made lake in Costa Rica. It started as a very small lake, and they used a hydroelectric dam to flood the lake, and now they use that to power almost half the country. Wow. So it's really, they're very about sustainable living here in Costa Rica, obviously. So a lot of eco-friendly electrical and other power supplies are provided here. So it's a bit of a cooler climate. It's up in the higher altitude, and so you get nice winds. It's like springtime temperatures most of the year round, and very popular because the lake is beautiful. Wind sports like kayaking, windsurfing are very popular on the lake. Gorgeous area. Then we're looking at the Central Pacific, which is Area 3. You'll see along the Pacific coast there. So this is actually where the blue zone is located that we talked about earlier. So you're going to get a lot more charming towns and things. Part of the reason I think that it's the blue zone is it's actually a little bit further from like some of the airports and stuff, but still really great access to healthcare and education in this area. You've got Nosara, you know, going down the beach to Jaco area. Yeah, beautiful along the coast there. Really good, very up and coming for lots of real estate investments. Then we have the Central Valley, which is section 4 here. So you'll see that little star on the map. That's actually where San Jose is located. So the Central Valley is, you know, the highest kind of area of the country where you get the coolest climate. Is really nice in this area. They actually call like some places like Atenas and Grecia are some of the best climate in the world. You're getting temperatures that range from about 25 degrees Celsius during the day to about 15 degrees Celsius at night. And that's year round. So it's really beautiful. And same with sunrise and sunset in the whole country. It's about 12 hours to 13 hours of daylight year round, which I know when you're in the thick of winter in Canada can seem like a lot of sunlight.
Yeah, like.
Yeah. The sun always rises around 5:30 and always sets around 6 or 6:30.
Nice.
Then we have the South Pacific, which is down here, number 5. This is going way down. It's a lot more into the ecotourism, really boutique, sustainable living, stuff like that. It is quite far from most of the airports and things. So you really have to know that you want to live. It's about being like off grid, away from everything, kind of getting out of the hub. And then we have the Caribbean coast, which is completely different than the Pacific. So you'll notice that the Pacific has a lot more infrastructure, a lot more people along that coastline, just because the country has invested a lot more on that side. You kind of get better internet, better roads, better connections, things like that. But the Caribbean, you know, it's got its definite highlights. It's gorgeous. Your crystal blue waters, you know, white sands, warm temperatures. It's actually got a nicer rainy season than the Pacific coast, stuff like that. So where you're going to go with like Puerto Viejo, Limon, there's beautiful reserves along this area, and snorkeling, diving, all that kind of stuff. Gorgeous area of the country. So, you know, those are sort of your 6 main locations. Beautiful. Any questions about any of those?
Sonia's asking, how many airports are there in Costa Rica?
So there's actually quite a few domestic airports, but as far as international flying, there's only 2, one out of San Jose and one out of Liberia.
I have a question. Thank you for answering that. Sorry. Thanks for the question, Sonia. Liberia Airport, I know that there were some issues with some flights being canceled recently. Has that been rectified?
Yes, it has. They've repaired the runway. Yeah, it was actually, weirdly enough, a sinkhole. Yeah, but they've repaired it and fixed that up, and they don't anticipate any more problems.
Perfect. Just so that we can understand the size of Costa Rica, I would like to explain to me, please, if I was staying in the North Pacific and wanted to go to the lake, the man-made lake that you spoke of, to, you know, to enjoy the activities, how long is a car drive, do you think, between the two?
Between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
So it's a very large country then, if you were to put that into perspective.
It is and it isn't. It's, believe it or not, it's actually quite small, and the distance is not far, but the problem is it takes a longer time to travel than you would think, because it's not like in Canada where, oh, I'm going 60 kilometers, I'm going to be about an hour, or, you know, however that works. But it's not like that here. 60 kilometers is going to take you more like 2 hours to travel, just because it's windy roads, you know, you're definitely going up and down, elevation changes, lots of things like that. So it's a bit different. So when I say that, I'm giving you the time, not the distance, because the distance can be a little deceiving. The country is quite small. But if you were to say, for instance, I've done this myself. I got up one morning and I was on the Nicoya Peninsula, which is right around that number 3 zone there. Of the Central Pacific. I got up in the morning, I watched the sunrise over the Pacific Ocean, and then I drove straight across the country, going through San Jose, and went over to Limon, which is in Area 6 there, and I watched the sun set on the Caribbean Ocean. So on the same day.
Was that something that was on your to-do list?
Kind of, yeah. So we were going to visit. I was taking my family over to the Caribbean side to just see that side of the country and tour around. And we decided to get up early one morning, and it just so happened we had lots of time. We arrived, actually had dinner, and then watched the sunset. So
beautiful.
Lots of time. It only took about 8 hours to cross the country.
Beautiful. I see Bianca, you have a question. Daryl, sorry, you have a question. You can just unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Just wanted to know what the demographic was in the areas that you spoke of. Central Valley, South Pacific, like what is the demographic in those areas?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's pretty broad in most areas. As far as I'm assuming you're talking about like foreigners and expats coming to that area. I think that the beaches really do attract a lot of retirees and quite a few digital nomads. But the younger families and people who think of moving or doing, half of their time here or half the time in Canada are moving a lot more to the Central Valley area. So that would be the 4 and or 2. So Central Valley and the RNL La Fortuna area. So these are the two areas because the climate is a lot nicer. You have really easy access to great hospitals and because the education, of course, there is great education countrywide, but the schools are a bit larger. It's closer to access, universities, some of the bigger facilities and things like that. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Yes, yes, and no. I also wanted to know, like, how many specifically, not how many, but is there a large population of Blacks in Costa Rica in those areas as well? Is there a large population?
Yeah, so if we're going to get into that area, definitely you're going to be in the Caribbean coast. The Caribbean is a much darker population, just because of the influences coming from that side of the country. But of course, they're found countrywide. It's everywhere. So the demographic is very widespread. And then, of course, you find white and American and European all over the country as well, just because of expats coming here.
Okay. Also, another quick question too about the fees and stuff. All the denomination that is used down there, is it US dollars or?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I should have specified that from the beginning. Yeah, everything I speak in is US dollars. I know we're Canadian, so we kind of want to believe it's the Canadian dollar, but everything works in US here. And you can come here with just US dollars and pay with everything like that. Or you can use the Costa Rican currency, which is the colones. And colones is what, they work with mostly in the country, but everywhere accepts US dollars as well.
Do they accept Canadian or no?
No.
Okay.
Maybe at the bank to exchange money, but not no stores or anything. Here, like you can go to a grocery store and just ask them, oh, can I pay in dollars? And they'll just on the computer change it right there for you.
Oh, okay.
I think that's their standard through internationally. People speak in US dollars. I think that's standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever been able to buy the Cologne dollar in Canada?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can buy it at most exchange currency places or at your bank. And if you want a larger denomination of it, you just usually let your bank know and they'll be able to get it for you.
Right. Perfect. Okay. I usually do that when I travel because we're Canadian and we lose so much in our dollar. I hate to do that. So I try to get local funds if possible. So it's good to know.
Yeah, it is really helpful. And when you're doing things like tipping people and stuff, it's a bit nicer to do it in their actual currency. Yeah. So, some things like that, but pretty much everyone, even if you're doing, tourist things and they only take cash, they'll still take US dollars. Everyone takes US here.
Okay.
Beautiful.
If someone is building down there, wherever they decide to build, because I just recently saw some new builds going up in Florida, which I thought was quite they're very modernized and whatnot. I thought their infrastructure, their water systems would have been more, I guess, modernized, but they were using like sub pump stations. Is that something that when you're building down there, is that an infrastructure that you would have to put in place? Or do they have like underground water systems that your homes would be hooked up with?
So they have underground water systems in almost all areas here. So they either run off of the Aya water system, which is like city, or Asada, which is when you're out into the country, but it's still like pumped into your home through, like underground pipes. It's not, and then the third option, of course, is a well. Some properties do wells for two reasons. One, because they're trying to just stay off the grid. Or want cleaner water or want control of what's in their water. They don't treat the water a whole lot here in Costa Rica. I know in some places in Canada, there's a lot of fluoride in the water and things like that. That's not as common here in Costa Rica. I think because the water is straight from the mountains anyway, it's very clean in the first place. So they don't really do much to it.
That's good to know.
Yeah, but so obviously that's your first reason you might have a well, and the second reason is just because you're just outside of a provided area, of course.
Okay.
So is the water generally safe to drink if I'm out at a restaurant, they want to offer me tap water instead of a Perrier or something?
So I'm going to sort of say that, yes, the water here in Costa Rica is safe to drink in most areas. The problem areas are actually going to be by some of the beaches, and it's going to be where you're in real dense tourism hubs. What they've kind of done in some of these areas, so a great example would be like Santa Teresa, which is on the Nicoya Peninsula. The infrastructure just wasn't there for, like sewage treatments and things like that. And they just kept building and building and putting in more hotels and, going crazy with it. And so now it's become a bit of a problem because the water has to travel so far to the beach and they're afraid of what it's hitting on its way through all the pipes and things. So that's where you might want to be a little bit more cautious. But in general, no, you can drink all the water in Costa Rica.
Okay.
Good point. Thanks for your questions, Daryl.
Nope.
It's Bianca, but she's using Daryl's. Any other questions on this part before we move on to financing, the boring financing, which I think it's a great topic because I from my understanding, it's been rather difficult getting financing in Costa Rica in the past. So I'm happy that things are possibly changing. I'm excited to learn.
Yes. So, although it's not all our favorite topics, it's an important one.
Yeah.
So it's really good to know that there are definite options. So yes, it used to be a bit different. It used to be like, if you didn't have the money in cash to come down here and buy, forget about it. That's not the case anymore. So you've got four main options. The first one is you can get a mortgage here in Costa Rica. I do want to preface this with it's difficult. It's not easy for foreigners. They do require a couple of things like they're going to require a 30 to 40% down payment. So it's very significant down payment. And then there's a lot in the process because you're going to have to get document translations, legal checks, things like that. And your interest rate might be a bit higher than what you would be able to get in Canada. But it is still an option. So if it's something you wanted to look at, it is possible. And people do get them fairly regularly, foreigners, for investments here.
So what interest rate are you looking at with the bank?
Usually between 6 to 12%. And that really is all depending on, how what it looks like for them, what kind of down payment you're providing, your income to debt ratio, credit checks, all that kind of stuff is all going to play into what you end up paying for interest.
Your risk, I guess.
Yeah, risk assessment. Okay. Your second option is obviously private lenders. So there are many private lenders now that are allowing you to use the home in Costa Rica as collateral. So it used to be more like a home equity loan that you can also see on this as an option. So your home equity loan is going to be a loan against the equity in your property in Canada. And it's kind of like a borrow and repay, like a credit card system where you're kind of getting like a line of credit and you're using that and you can use it on whatever you'd like, including foreign property. And home equity loans, you have to have a certain amount of equity in your house. You have to have a good credit score, things like that in order to get that home equity loan. Private lenders are able to do it through using the property in Costa Rica as the collateral. So you don't have to put up against your home in Canada in order to get that private loan. Some considerations on this are definitely like higher interest rates, 9 to 12%. Your loan to value ratio, they're only going to give you about 50 to 70% of the value of the home for your loan. So they're not going to do the whole mortgage and, shorter terms. It's not going to be a 30-year mortgage. things like that. So those are just, notes that you want to keep into consideration. However, it can be a really great option because you can sort of step outside of other loans you may have in Canada, again, using the equity on the property you're purchasing here, whereas any Canadian loans are not going to allow you to use the equity in the foreign property to get your loan.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I have a question. Typically here, private lenders, of course, they're charging you a high interest rate, but the worst part about that is that you're typically only paying interest. So I'm assuming now, if you're saying that there's a loan term of 1 to 5 years, that actually there is money that's going to the principal.
Yes, most of the investors who are looking at private loans are doing so over short terms because they're looking for two options. One, they want to either make their investment as well and their money on the interest, and then they want to help you get into a lower interest loan. So they only want to do it over the course of a small period until you can build up equity or whatever else you may need to do to pay off that loan and go somewhere else. Or the second option being that they're going to work with you to create a payment plan that can be paid off in 5 years. So it would be an aggressive payment plan, but a possibility as well. So those are the two.
But in the first option, is the private lender, the first one that you mentioned, are you actually paying on the principal, or is it an interest only loan?
No, you would pay on the principal as well.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Of course, there's different lenders and different options. I work with one company. Some people may work with others, but everyone's going to have a different layout for the loan.
And they are in Costa Rica, or do we have private lenders here that I don't know about that are going to? I mean, I know a ton of private lenders here that. Anyways, let me ask a question. The ones that you know, they're in Costa Rica.
So I know of one in Costa Rica, and I do know of one in Canada as well.
Interesting. Okay.
That I work with. Mm-hmm. And the last one is something that's very popular here in Costa Rica, which is owner financing. Okay, so the seller of the property will often offer financing on the home at a fairly low interest rate. So this is really great. They will require a large down payment, usually 20 to 50% of the selling price. But it's a really great option if you have a really large chunk right now that you can, put towards the house and then just make payments for the next, say, 3 to 5 years. Usually these are not long-term loans because obviously they want to get their money back. The seller wants their money, but it's very common here. It's done all the time. It's not as common in Canada, but sometimes we refer to it as like a vendor take back, but there's all different ways of structuring that loan agreement as well. So not always does it have to be a vendor take back. And if you know what that means, it means that they're able to take the property if you default on the payments.
Right.
But there are different ways of structuring it. So again, that's something that's very personal to that seller. And so the owner can decide how they want to structure that. And if they want to agree to a vendor take back, or if they agree to just a loan, or however they want to do that. But it's a really great option here, of course. So if you have the majority of the money for a home, but you're finding that it's just a little bit above your budget, you might be able to work something out with the owner.
I believe that is the historically the most typical way of doing some sort of financing. Is that right? It's been around for a while, no?
Yeah, it has. Yeah,
Right.
Especially in Costa Rica. This is something that's common between Costa Ricans themselves and from foreigners. It's very, very popular here.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions regarding this, guys?
I had a quick question just in regards to whether or not it would make sense for somebody to, is it cheaper to buy a home or to build a home? And does that depend on the area?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really does depend on what you're looking for and what kind of style you'd want to build and what you're buying. So there's different, obviously, styles of construction. So we call one a sort of Tico style home, which is Tico means Costa Rican. So a Costa Rican style home is just much more rustic, simple fixtures and things. It's not going to be really modern and elaborate. Still very good construction. I want to be clear about that. There's nothing wrong with the house. It's just a different style of building. And that is going to run you about $700 per meter squared, okay, to build. Now, if you're looking at something more intense, you want to do something more the feel of Canadian build, North American style, very modern, sleek finishes, you know, very very updated. You're going to be closer to like $1,200 to $1,500 per meter squared. And keep in mind, I'm talking in US dollars here. So those are kind of your rates. When you're looking at buying property, there are land values that are provided by the government here, and that's how you kind of get an idea of what the land valuation is without any building on it. And then when we go and take into consideration building of construction, you can buy a home for less technically than you can build it, because we take into consideration that we're not going to charge, you know, $1,500 per meter squared on a pre-built home, because you don't get to build it the way you want. You don't get to do the finishes. You don't get to pick the layout, those kind of things. So we can't put as high of a price on it. So although you can get cheaper money for that, you're taking that trade out, that you don't get to choose the house. You know, so I would say generally, maybe it's a little bit cheaper to buy a pre-constructed property, but that's not always the case.
Okay, gotcha. Also, just another quick question. Do you also find there's been, I know container homes have been like a trend lately. Is that something that's big down there as well? And is that also a great option for someplace like Costa Rica?
So yes, it is something that is done a lot around here. You see a lot of container homes. It's my personal opinion that the import taxes in Costa Rica are quite high. And I think that often by the time you buy the container or buy the container home and you pay the import taxes, I think you're better off to actually just build here. Basic construction. That's, I guess, my personal opinion, and through what I've experienced from people. Generally, you want block construction here. It's due to the amount of seismic activity in the country that block construction is going to stand up the best. So although obviously container homes are able to move with that seismic activity, you know, you definitely want to have something solid in your structure. So that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Good questions, Bianca. So maybe we can share a little bit about some of your listings so that we can get an idea of what these price points are.
Absolutely. So I have a couple of different listings to show you guys. So they're all different based on areas that they're in. I've tried to give a variety throughout the country, a variety of pricing, and a variety of construction builds as well, so that you can see a bit of different styling and how old the homes are versus how new, things like that. So so the first one that we have, so this is a half dolphin. It is located in the Los Delfines community, which is an expat community. It's a private gated community that has a golf course, tennis courts, pickleball, all those sort of amenities that you would like. Very safe because it's gated. There's 24-hour security. You know, your water bill is included in your HOA fees that you pay monthly for that security. Garbage pickup, things like that are all included with your HOA fees at this property. This is located just not even a 5-minute walk to the beach. You can literally hear the ocean in the backyard. And you can see through the pictures, there's a private pool in the backyard. We call this a semi-detached home. It shares one wall with the house beside it. And this one's going for $330,000 right now, US. Now you will notice that prices at the beach are higher than you're going to see in prices that are in the Central Valley and stuff. The beach is very sought after. Everyone wants that, you know, tropical vibe of beach living. So this is a 2-bedroom home, to give you an idea, 2-bathroom, and yeah, large backyard, big pool, really well landscaped. Does anyone have any questions about this property?
I do. What are the HOH fees on this property?
Yeah, so they are just under $180 a month. So I think it comes out to about maybe $8,000 for the year or something. A couple thousand for the year. Sorry, I can't do the math right now in my head.
Oh, that's still so much cheaper than Toronto. And what is a half dolphin?
Yeah, so the half dolphin means that it's semi-detached.
Right.
So
I thought, but I didn't want to assume.
yeah, so that's why we call it a half dolphin. There are full dolphins that are available in this community. They're at a much higher price point. You're looking at doubling your money, around 600,000 to 700,000 for a full dolphin.
Cute.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Perfect. So another option in this same community to go with a lower budget is a condo. So these are brand new condos that were just built last year. So this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo, and it's only 225,000. So you can see the difference. Now this condo still has a pool. It's not private. It's shared with all the condo owners. I believe there's 60 units maybe in this condo. Total is there's upper and lower units. This is a lower unit, so you have a nice walkout into a little backyard, a very nice area. And of course, your HOA on this is smaller because your property is smaller. So I believe the HOA is only about $90 a month on this property.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the approximate square footage on this one?
So the square footage, I know it in meters squared, which is about 60 meters squared. Sorry, we don't work in feet here, so
Okay, well, I'm lost now, but
but
okay.
yeah.
All right, I'll write it down.
The beauty here in Costa Rica, though, too, is you'll find there's a lot of smaller homes with large outdoor spaces because we live outdoors here, right? It's year round, even in the rainy season, as long as you've got a roof over it. It's an outdoor space that's usable. So it's very common. And who wants to sit inside in air conditioning when you live in Costa Rica? And not me, that's for sure.
Right. For sure, 100%. I think the reason I asked the question because of the fact that you mentioned condo. I know typically here in Toronto, sometimes a condo, the bedrooms become very small. So the reason I was asking that is I'm thinking what size beds could typically fit in these bedrooms?
Yeah, so in this condo specifically, there's a king size bed in the master bedroom. And then the secondary bedroom, you can easily fit a queen size bed, but they currently, I believe, have bunk beds in the second bedroom in this house.
There you go. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, moving on to the next property. So this is sorry,
I was going to say 60 square meters is approximately, it looks like 645 square feet.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, so this home is a house that's been built in La Fortuna, very near La Fortuna, which is near that Lake Arnal area. So this is in a tourist, hotspot. La Fortuna is known for being that like ecotourism, very adventure tourism. So you get a different clientele than at the beach. Everyone wants to go to the beach to relax. People are coming to La Fortuna to hike, see waterfalls, go horseback riding, zip lining, all those kind of things. So tourism wise, these kind of houses are a great start. This one is a really, really well-priced home. So it's only 120,000. It's 500 meters squared. You can see on this one, they did it in meters squared, or in, 500 square meters for the property. The construction is about 200 meters squared. So it's a lot larger than some of the other ones we were looking at. It's 3 bedrooms, 3 bath. It's actually got a whole apartment on the upper level. So you can split it and you could rent it out in 2 different apartments or live in one and rent out the other. So there's a lot of options with this property. It's got a pool in the back. So you can see how the price point is just amazing. It's got a jacuzzi tub upstairs. Definitely check out this listing if you want on my website, and you'll see how beautiful this place is. It's just been on the market shortly for a short period of time. It's probably not going to last long at this price, but it is a gorgeous home. Any questions about this one?
This is like Tico style, correct?
This is what we would consider a Tico style. Yeah, you can see that in the kitchen in that picture, like everything's a little more rustic. The fixtures aren't as modern, things like that. So that's where you're getting a better price point. There's no air conditioning in this home, but because it's located in La Fortuna, it's not really necessary. This one also has a direct view out the back upper porch. It's got a balcony that looks out over the Arnal volcano. It's gorgeous.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this one is a property. It does have a small, we call it a casita on it, which is just a small sort of home. It's only one bedroom, one bathroom, little kitchen. It's just what they kind of call a casita or a starter home for either a rental income or for you to live while you build your dream home. Why I wanted to really show you guys this property is the views. So if you can kind of see from one of those pictures, it looks out over, so you're in the Central Valley, so you have this beautiful, cool climate, but you can actually see the ocean. So in that photo, you can see that blue area on the horizon, the lower area, that's actually the ocean. It's gorgeous. There's actually a plateau at the top of this property where you have 360-degree views all the way around. Yeah, it's stunning. So this is a property where you would be looking to obviously build a house probably. I mean, you're welcome to live in the small casita. It's very reasonable. You can live there, absolutely, with these views. But what they've done is built that house a little bit lower on the property so that they've left that open space so that you can build at the top of the property. And this is actually a functioning coffee farm at the moment. So it's actually making an income of, I believe they said around $10,000 a year in sales on coffee beans.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a really great option as well. Beautiful property. So it's in the Central Valley. I think I mentioned that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That last property, you said there's a working coffee farm, like an operating coffee farm. Obviously that you're not going to assume if you buy the property, no?
Yeah, the property it's inclusive. So you'll see that this property is almost 10,000 meters squared. It's a huge property.
Yeah, I was looking at the price and I'm looking at the square meters. I'm like, is that right?
Yes, that is correct. It's huge. You pretty much own the side of a mountain.
This is calling you, Bianca. Weren't you in the coffee business at one point?
I was about to say, listen, this falls right in line with what I was doing.
Yeah, so if you know too, like coffee grows really well in higher altitudes. It grows well on mountainsides. So that's what's happening on this property. It's already terraced. The plants are there. They're already making an income. So it's really great if you're looking for that kind of an income. I mean, you could choose to do nothing with the coffee if you want, just build a home on this property as well. It's kind of whatever you choose to make it, but it is a functioning coffee farm. Yeah.
Cool.
You should buy it.
Something to
Become
think
a coffee farmer. I
right?
see you now.
Take a couple courses. I'm sure it'll be good.
Thank you.
Cool.
No problem. And then the final property that I wanted to talk to you about today. So this one is a higher price point. It's closer to the $800,000 mark. However, it is gorgeous. And why I wanted to touch on this property is because it's located just kind of outside of the Central Valley. It's in the Quesada village. And it's just what you can get bang for your buck versus like Canadian funds. So I know this is a little over $1 million Canadian, of course. Sorry, my dog's barking a little bit. Yeah, but really it's a magnificent home. You've got an elevator, there's 4 levels, there's views over the city, the volcano, an indoor pool and jacuzzi, 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, an office, a beautiful open kitchen, patios, decks that are outside, like a huge amount of property, 2,700 square meters for the actual property, toucans in your backyard, monkeys, like just phenomenal. And the price of this property really is exactly what you're looking for. Like think of in Canada what you can get for $1 million and think of what you can get here for $1 million. It just goes to show the difference in living.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So, yeah, just something to consider. And that's about it. So actually, yeah, if you guys need more information, your best bet is to contact Samantha and she can get you started with the process and get you in contact with me if she needs to.
Great. Thank you so much. That was magnificent. You did a great job. I appreciate that. Any other questions for Laura before we end? Or for myself?